Hello everyone, thank you for joining us on this edition of The Inside. I am Badle Jonathan. Today we're looking at how to take Africa out of the paradoxical situation of richest continent and poorest continent. A continent rich in natural, material and human resources, but at the same time plagued by chronic underdevelopment, challenges all across the continent: poverty, hardship, misery from north to south, east to west. This is the picture of the African continent. This is the picture of the Republic of Cameroon, where underdevelopment challenges arise from the major urban centers to the hinterlands, from north to south, from east to west. So many underdevelopment challenges making life quite difficult for citizens, for Africans. We're looking at this and how to use information and communication technologies to take Cameroon, to take Africa out of its current situation. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest today is Professor MBARIKA Victor. He is a Cameroon-born American professor, former Stallings International Distinguished Scholar, and Professor of Information and Communication Technologies. He is the President of the Board of Trustees of the ICT University. He has carried out extensive research focused on ICT implementation in Africa and has provided a theoretically informed framework for understanding ICTs in less developed countries. Recently, he received the United States President's Lifetime Achievement Award. Professor, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Babila. I'm honored to be at Equinoxe.
You were honored with the U.S. President's Lifetime Achievement Award recently. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I felt very, very humbled by that because it was given by the current President of the United States, Mr. Joe Biden. I am a Republican by affiliation, but he's a Democrat, and it did not look at politics. It just looked at productivity by the grace of God, and this was given to me based on much of the work I do for ICT University, much of the inventions by ICT University students. So I don't want to take all the praise. Really, this comes from a lot of the inventions from our students, and they looked at what they have done and honored me with this Lifetime Achievement Award by the U.S. President.
All right, can you tell us a little more about what you've been able to do this far that made you worthy to receive this important distinction?
Yeah, first of all, Mr. Babila, I want to give glory to God for helping me distinguish myself in my profession of ICTs. Now, don't forget, this is my 4th Lifetime Achievement Award, so I've received 3 before, thanks to the education and discipline from my parents. As you know, I just lost my dad 3 days ago, and I want to pay my respects to him. This is my first TV appearance since he's gone to glory. But he taught me to take education very seriously and to add to education good entrepreneurship. So
let me just seize this opportunity to extend our condolences to you.
Thank you.
With regards to that great loss.
Thank you so much. So much of what I have contributed to the world is to say, okay, these technologies were originally manufactured to serve the Western world. The Western world was not sitting and thinking about inventing technologies to help Africa. But what I did through the ICT University is we got to challenge students to become some of the best programmers that you can have in the world, to create their own technologies, market them, make money from them, with or without the intervention of Western countries. That is what much of this award was about. The fact that Africans, young Africans, through our institution, were able to come up with great technologies that are used in multiple places, not just in Africa, but around the world.
Bringing out skills, talents, know-how, innovation out of young Africans.
Yes, coming out of this old European archaic ways that our parents and grandparents were taught by colonialists, that go and memorize, come take exams, and you are the best, and they say, oh, that begin get sense. No. But using like Bloom's taxonomy, which is a great part of education, where the student is taught to self-create, to innovate, and to come up with new things. And some of these students may not have been A students even, but students that can use their creativity in this God-given blessed continent called Africa, this God-given blessed Cameroon, where we have some of the smartest humans existing anywhere. And I can prove it to you. As most of the ministers that have gone to school, most people that have gone to school abroad, they were never intimidated by Western countries' education. They went in, many of us went into the Western world and even beat those Westerners in their own schools. So it is not about intelligence. We have some of the smartest people in the world right here in Cameroon, right here in Africa. And that is all God sent me to do professionally. Challenge young people to create technologies that are relevant for day to day. We have students that have created technologies to help the blind. We have a young lady from a village of Zangtabi that created a bra called IntelliBra, that when a woman wears, it can help detect cancer, so they can do early intervention right here in Cameroon. Okay? And many, many other such technologies. That is what my mission is professionally through what we do at the ICT University.
And that is, of course, in line with the call of the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, in one of his speeches. He called on young people to be daring, to be innovative, to go beyond their hands and do things like what you're saying now. And then you started answering this question already, but I just want you to maybe emphasize or throw more light on the aspect of being a black and thriving out there. Was it easy for you to thrive in what I want to call the white man's society?
Absolutely not. There is a lot of racism in America. There's a lot of racism in Europe. It was not easy. It's not been easy because I have been directly attacked, envied, and plans made against me to disrupt what I'm doing. But there is something great about America that I don't believe I've seen anywhere else in the world, except Cameroon maybe, that you are rewarded for productivity. So even if the white man in America hates you, so far as you bring value to what the institution or the company you are working for, they can call you nigger, they can call you ignorant, they can call you all kinds of bad names, but they will want you to be there because you make them look better and it's good for their business. And that's the great thing with America. But they would do that with a lot of hate in their heart. But I still thrived. Okay? So the racism is there, but you have to be the best at what you do. See something like the Biden Lifetime Achievement Award I was given.
Over the years, there's been some kind of improvement in that perspective with regards to the way blacks are treated.
No, absolutely not. It's worse than it was before. Before, the racist would tell you, I hate you because you're a black man, and I can kill you because you're a black man. Now, people with PhDs in universities will go racist against you, even in a very subtle way. Okay? In a very subtle way, they will be racist against you, and you would never even know. It could be even one of your own colleagues that you go out and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with, but just hates you because you're a black man, and behind your back would do a lot of backstabbing. Racism is still alive in America. I'm sure you've seen in the news black people killed by the police, white police, just because they had one crime. They were black. It still happens today in America. So no, I am not of that school of thought that racism is reduced, but the laws are stronger than before in defending the rights of the black man, and I'm happy about that.
Okay, that's however a remarkable improvement that can be profitable for the black man
Yes.
to thrive.
Yes.
And despite all of that, whatever name, calling, or whatever names are being given to Africans, that's not the image of Africans. That's not the image of Africa. The image of Africans, the image of Africa
Yes.
is that productive continent.
Absolutely.
Productive individuals like you, intelligent and well-built individual intellectually.
Oh, so some of the smartest people in the world are right here in Africa. I tell people the Cameroon GCE advanced level is the most difficult exam I ever took in my life, including getting my PhD. And I got my PhD from one of the top 50 institutions in America. I never had an exam there that was tougher than the Cameroon GCE advanced level. And I did all that still to end up with 3 papers. Okay, so Cameroon has a very, very top standard of education, especially at the primary and secondary level, high school level. There is some work for us to do at the university level. There are great improvements, and I'm happy under the leadership of Professor Jacques Famendongo, Minister of Higher Education. I think he's done some tremendous work equipping more and more state universities. But there is a lot more that they can also learn from private institutions like ours that go above and beyond to really get our young men and women thrive in creating information technologies.
Right, now let's talk about the difficult socio-economic environment in which many Cameroonians and Africans find themselves today. Paradoxically, Cameroon, like the rest of the African continent, is very rich in terms of natural, other material, and of course human resources. But yet, poverty, hardship, misery, difficult road situations, bad roads all over the place, from the main cities to the hinterlands. Social amenities lacking in many parts of the continent.
Yes.
People living below the poverty line, unable to afford a piece of bread a day. What is your perception of all this situation?
Yeah, it's it's quite a challenge. However, I'm a little more positive, Mr. Babila. The fact too is, I am seeing a lot of young entrepreneurs today. I'm seeing a lot of young people that have no interest in being employed by someone else, but are developing their own things. Okay, I do agree with you. The poverty is so acute. I don't want to call the names of the hotels, but I stay in some of the top hotels in this country sometimes when I don't want to stay at home. And you see the level of prostitution is increased. Young women just come in there and would go and see them hanging around old white men in their 70s. This girl is 18, 19, with some old white guy that cannot get a girlfriend, a woman in their country. But it's due to this poverty. But we Africans, we make a lot of excuses. The fact too is, there are opportunities we can take advantage of if we just reduce our pride a little bit. I'll ask you, we have the most fertile soil in the world right here. But a lot of people, I know many people have heard this already, a lot of young people don't want to get into agriculture because it's considered work for poor people. Meanwhile, there are countries Cameroon is feeding and can continue to feed if young men and women apply themselves in certain things like agriculture, in certain entrepreneurial things. It's just the rush for quick money. Okay, then of course we cannot also dispute the fact that some very wicked, evil people have stolen the money of the country and punishing a lot of young people. I can say that now only because the head of state himself said it, that he would deal with people that steal from the country, right? It's something that even the head of state has. So that we cannot. Even
though he has been saying that over the years, and it's continuing and even worsening, the corruption, embezzlement, and all the rest. But
I'm glad that people are going. A number of people are going to jail for this. I'm glad for that. I'm glad to see that there is some level of justice that we are seeing happening. Now, I can't go much into the politics of it. I'm a technocrat. I'm an IT guy. I don't know much about that side. But I am glad for the fact that the president of the country can make a public statement that people that are stealing from the country will bear the consequences.
Yeah.
And I think some things are coming.
Yeah. So now looking at this issue of young people, Cameroonians not wanting to go the way of agriculture, which the head of state has also talked about.
Yeah.
He has mentioned that repeatedly in his speeches.
Yes.
But many seem not to be taking that road of the soil. But is that not a product of the education they have received? The education of the tie, the suit, office, and all of that?
Absolutely.
Job seekers all over the place.
Absolutely. I can't add much of what you have said. You are very correct. It comes from that archaic European education that, I mean, God bless our parents, God bless our grandparents. That is all they knew. When they saw the white man come, they bowed to him and they did everything the white man said in our curriculum. I mean, we are still learning European history. For what reason, I don't know. And we are not learning the history of the great people of Zangtabi or the great people of Boya. But we are learning about Western civilization and not even ours. But that's the thing. We are not taught how to create, how to do hands-on things. Nobody teaches at ICT University, even teaching an art subject, without doing hands-on work. Because gone are those days where book knowledge would take you far to anywhere. You know, I know that the focus of this program is to talk only about ICTs, but education in general, policy, curriculum need to be revisited in our country and on our continent, because we are not going on the right path. We are still offering people GCE level, baccalaureate, A level, whatever. That is based largely on you going to cram, do memory work, come and regurgitate, and you are smart. Okay? So the approach of rethinking education is very, very important. Where they say science students are smart, art students are not smart. I surprise people. I thank God for my dad, because I was an art student. I did A4. But you cannot write a history of ICTs in Africa without my name today. Okay? I'm not being arrogant about it. You can go and Google it and see. We have to change the way of thinking about our education and drop largely that old European archaic way of thinking. They should listen. Policymakers need to listen to young people that have studied and know what the new world is. They have a contribution in the way education should go.
And of course, this education that we are talking about should be tailored to meet the needs of society.
Absolutely.
To meet the challenges of society, the challenges of this era. But that seems not to be the case. But there is also another side of the issue, another side of the coin, which is attributed to some kind of laziness and some things that have become normal in society today.
Correct.
For example, in schools, cheating has become a normal thing. Anybody who is not cheating, you're abnormal. Mm-hmm. And even some invigilators help students to cheat. Mm-hmm. How can we explain this? How did we move to get to this point where cheating has become normal? Yeah. People buy reports and come and defend, and they go with it.
Yeah. And unfortunately, this even started happening in some of our days in secondary school. Yeah, I remember when I was taking my writing economics for the GCA level, our own lecturer came into the hall and gave us answers to some questions. I don't want to call his name. He's still alive. He came and gave us answers to certain questions. We wrote them down. That's unfortunate. But imagine the kind of training he was giving us, that cheating is okay. The path to quick money is okay. See, please, I know a lot of people will critique me that maybe I'm siding with the government and so on. Everybody wants to blame the government of corruption. But let me tell you, I've been a businessman in Africa for a long time. I did much of my businesses in Uganda, Nigeria. The problem with the average African is that it's hard to find 10% of honest Africans, young people, to entrust the money for your business, and they don't try to cheat on you. You even a driver, you give them 10,000 francs to put fuel, they go and put for 2,000. The level of individual corruption is too deep, but it's so much easier for us as Africans to point the finger, oh, that minister is a thief. Well, it's so hard. How about you? You know, it's so hard to find trusted people to entrust and do business with. There are so many successful entrepreneurs like myself around in the diaspora that want to invest money in African countries, but they cannot do it because they can't find trusted people to work with. That is a problem.
All right, we're going to take a look at what the newspapers reported this week, and when we come back, we are looking at how to take Africa, how to take Cameroon out of its current situation of poverty, hardship, misery, all the development challenges making life difficult for our citizens all over the continent with the use of information and communication technologies. The press review. Reports the death of 4 persons in a road accident that occurred at Mile 2 in Limbe in the southwest region of the country. It is one of the accidents recorded on highways across the country, leading to the death of at least 20 people in just a week. The post-weekender Justice Minister reviews over 850 magistrates under investigation for corruption. The Minister of Justice and Keeper of the Seas, Laurent Esso, made this revelation while answering questions from senators in the upper house of parliament. Now, the Guardian Post newspaper, as High Judicial Council fails to meet in 4 years, complaints against close to 900 magistrates blocked. This is the exclamation on the front page of the Guardian Post newspaper. Another edition of the Guardian Post newspaper says at opening of Governor's Confab, Minat boss declares merciless crackdown on civil behaviors and defiance. That is what came from the Minister of Territorial Administration, Atanganji Paul, a warning to all persons who will attempt to disrupt the upcoming electoral process in the country. The Median newspaper, warning to political actors, Atanganji prescribes zero tolerance for disorder. This is what the Minister of Territorial Administration said during the conference of governors in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, and Cameroon Tribune says that governors are on mission ahead of the 2025 elections, on mission to stop any attempt to create chaos, to cause chaos and destabilize the country ahead of the 2025 elections in Cameroon. And ahead of the elections next year, The Horizon tells its readers that a counter poll gives Professor Maurice Kamto, national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, victory, while the CPDM candidate is placed third behind Honorable Cabral Libya of the Cameroon Party for National Reconciliation. Newswatch, sign of resilience or resignation. Battle-weary Bamenda ranked cheapest city to live in by an international organization, and the paper is questioning if that is a sign of resilience or resignation. The Guardian Post, 8 months after a firm instruction of the Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph John Gote, wrote garbage disposal in Yaoundé still in shameful state. That is what we can find in the columns of the Guardian Post newspaper. Municipal updates, according to the Municipal Updates newspaper, a local governance report has revealed that 62% of councils in Cameroon sideline young persons And the Voice newspaper reports the upcoming inauguration of the Simpor cement plant by the interim Minister of Mines and Technological Development, Professor Callistus Gentry, plus the regulation of public quarries in Cameroon. You can find all details of those different news items in the columns of the different newspapers that we can find in the Thank you for staying with us. We are still with our guest, Professor Victor MBARIKA, who is a University Don and international ICT expert. Now, Professor, we want to look at how to take Africa. I think this is the most important thing now, to take Africa, to take Cameroon out of its current situation to where it's supposed to be. Now, how? First of all, let's have a clear distinction on these two. I don't know if I should call them concepts of information and communication technologies and new information and communication technologies. What's the difference between the two?
Information and communication technologies is like considered the mother of the terms, covering all kinds of technologies you can think of. So new technologies are really a subset of ICTs. And typically when you talk of new technologies today, for the most part, practically spoken, you are talking about artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and let me explain that a little more. These are technologies that go beyond what they were created for, like industry, for companies to use. Now, these technologies are coming to help you and I in our day-to-day activities to just make our lives a lot easier. Like when you go and walk around and you have your watch on and it's measuring your heartbeat and things like that, helping you with your health, being able to measure your blood pressure and so on. Or even while driving home, you can set your coffee maker to make you coffee before you get there. All these areas of Internet of Things and so on are typically what we call new technologies that have emerged to help individuals as opposed to just companies. They do help companies, but it's gone beyond just the preserve for the big name companies to what your grandmother in the village can use to sell their crops online.
As an ICT expert, what's your take on this issue of artificial intelligence? It seems not to be accepted by a lot of people who are seeing some kind of laziness in the whole thing, like replacing man. When you're able to use ChatGPT and produce a report and produce one thing or the other, it's like man is being replaced gradually. This is the perception that many have. What's your take on this artificial intelligence?
The interesting thing, Mr. Babila, is that people think artificial intelligence is something of recent. Artificial intelligence has been there for a long time. In businesses, they used to use them called decision support systems, expert systems. They have been there for over 25 years. It's just that now again, they are becoming new technologies because they are helping humans perform repetitive activities that used to be performed by human beings. But yes, I've had the same robots, etc. I've had the same question asked in another TV interview. Will they come and replace humans? The fact is, for many routine jobs, they will be replaced by artificial intelligence in one way or another. And this is where the bad news comes, Mr. Babila. Nobody, no government, no power in the world can stop it. What individuals need to start thinking is, what is it that I can do that robots will not do it for me? Because it will be cheaper. I'm a businessman. Why would I employ people if I can have robots do it? In fact, let me tell you the shocking thing. Harvard is actually considering having a robot, testing a robot to teach a course like general type courses to replace us university professors. Yes, that students can interact with, ask questions and so on. We have a young man on our campus at ICE University called Zebs. He is developing a robot that will welcome people that walk to our campus. Greet them, ask them their name, welcome them to our campus. The robot will be revealed in the next 3 months. Built here in Cameroon. I'm not talking about something from Japan. Okay? Unfortunately, we can say all we want to say, but artificial intelligence has come here to stay. The question is, how do we adapt to it? Because it's not going to stop anywhere. Journalism now, because of artificial intelligence, you will not need big buildings to run a TV station or radio station, which means some journalists will lose their jobs. You've been to CRTV building, it's many, many stories high. With artificial intelligence now, with a 2-bedroom apartment, you can run something that makes it look like it was 20 stories.
All right.
So it is a good thing. Let's look at it that way and see how to leverage it and have human beings take care of other things.
So how do we use all these technologies to help develop Cameroon, to develop the African continent, to take it out of its current state?
The number one area, and I say this with all authority as an ICT expert, that Africa must adopt artificial intelligence in the area of agriculture. Because today, the robots and so on can do the clearing of your farms, of your land, can do the planting, can do spraying for insecticides, I'm not an agricultural specialist, although I'm going into that, harvesting, etc., with literal arms that look like human beings harvesting for you. You say, what will now happen with the young people that have to work? They now have to start thinking how to be the ones programming those robots. Remember, robots don't program themselves. Somebody has to do it. Humans are still superior. Humans are the ones that create the code, create the commands for robots to act. So that is why training has to go. And I know this is very, very scary. Why do we need schools of law, degrees in law in this country anymore, in Africa anymore? We graduate so many lawyers. Start changing them to look at technology law, to look at how to practice law and be able to help people using artificial intelligence in any part of the world. Even if they don't have a job in Cameroon, they can help with law practices anywhere in any country around the world. For example, in developing the government documents in any country, that someone can go online and do it. So these technologies have come to help us. Let's not be scared of them. Let's, in every profession, that's why at ICT University we say imparting technologies in every academic discipline. Even if you are a pastor to preach the gospel today, you can have more reach around the world using artificial intelligence than you trying to gather people in big buildings and big cathedrals around. So it is a good thing, my dear brother. We should just start learning the fact that ICT training has to be introduced from primary school 1, or whether it's nursery school. It should just become a part of it. So I will come back to this. It is number one in the area of agriculture that will really, really help Africa.
No, in the domain of education, what exactly should be done to ensure that children grow up with this knowledge, grow up with this perspective of ICT? Some of us went to school, and even at the level of the university, the ICT was taught theoretically, and then practically very little was done. And there are still many today who have graduated with degrees and even masters and so on, but they can't really do some practical things on the computer.
And the amazing thing, Mr. Babila, is there are millions of jobs that if we make ICT a major part of the curriculum, these kids will graduate and can either run their own businesses or work anywhere in the world from their villages here in Cameroon. They don't even need to come to Yaoundé or Douala. They can have a satellite connection today, have internet, and work anywhere in the world. So how do we do it? We start from the day the kids enter school. And that is why we are launching very soon the ICT nursery school, the ICT primary school, the ICT secondary school, and the ICT high school. That way, from the very first day the kid gets in there. By class 3, a kid is programming. These kids you see in China and Japan programming in young age, they're not smarter than us. But we need to do it. Now, let me acknowledge something. You need good funding to do these things, because we are launching these schools knowing that the average Cameroonian cannot afford it. So that is where businesses need to invest in education. But we don't have this mentality of businesses donating
the private sector,
to education. The private sector donating and contributing to education. That's why we don't want to go and ask anybody anything. We are using our own resources, our own connections to be able to bring this, because our kids in Cameroon and Africa, they deserve this. Everyone is waiting for the government to do it. No government in the world, including the great American government, has all the money or resources to do all the nice things they want to do for its development. Let no government ever lie about that, because no government has that money. Okay? But private sector must come in.
But it has the duty to make policies, to create the enabling environment for the private sector to thrive, for private companies to come into the domain and be able to do some business that will be profitable for the nation. So about policies, what should be done in that area of policies to enhance the implementation of ICT in Cameroon and in other African countries?
You know, Nigeria, during the former administration, Buhari administration, they created a committee it's called for friendly business, something like that. Like the government literally decided to have this entire government department that is just to listen to people that have good business idea and facilitate. It's a committee on doing business easy, right? So that any investor that comes into the country to invest, or any investor within the country, that committee right there can help them get their documents signed without being asked for bribe here and there, and just to help for ease, to do business, to the ease of business is needed. It cannot just be done in speeches. There must be an entire, it doesn't have to be a whole ministry, but an entire department, probably right under any high office in this country, in charge of ease of doing business. Nigeria did it and it's working. I was helped in Nigeria for some of my businesses there, and I'm not a Nigerian, you know, such that they don't have to go through places bringing in things through customs, and the custom person is there to make more money. For example, I don't know if it's true. I mean, if it's true, it's good news that bringing agricultural products, agricultural machines come in duty free. And that's why we have decided to invest 5 billion CFA. The ICT University will invest 5 billion, not Cameroon campus, but from the US Foundation, 5 billion in the next 10 years in developing agricultural projects for Cameroon. And I'm told that by law now, you can bring in the machines free. But who knows when the machines arrive at Douala or Kribi port, and some hooligan start telling you, if all the document they see the seller, or you know, that is not even required by the government, and that is a 10 million bribe to bring in good machines. So a committee for doing good business, ease of business, can call up that person and say, hey, stop it. Allow these people. I, as Victor MBARIKA, am blessed that I have known some people that help make those calls for me when people want to disturb me. And I must say this, Mr. Babila, and I want to encourage every investor to come to Cameroon. The fact is, if you go to the right people in government and tell them this is what I want to do, but people are disturbing me, they will intervene. They have intervened so many times. When I started creating ICT University, some Cameroonians told me that it's a waste of time. You are just going to waste your money. The government helped me from the very beginning, because I already came knowing that some people will give me a hard time. Nobody in higher education asked me for a bribe. I'll say this in public. I've said it many times. Not one person. Not that they asked me and I refused to give. Not one person in the Ministry of Higher Education asked me for a bribe to establish the university here. And it's been very successful even in Cameroon. So, to answer your question again, let there be a committee for ease of doing business. It's needed.
All right. Now, talking about the aspect of using ICT to improve on business in particular, using ICT to improve on business? What are some of the opportunities that are there, probably lying idle because many people do not know, or some do know, they have limited knowledge of how to use those technologies to
Yes.
make business, to make money, to
Yes.
put food on the table?
Yes. In Mali, cow rearers, they are using their mobile phones instead of carrying the cows all around the country to sell. They take pictures of the cows, they send it to the market. People look at it, they debate the price. When they argue, when they reach an agreement, then they bring the cow there and deliver. That is one way. I can only talk about practical things that some of them I'm involved in. Okay? Now, we are starting a training where all those phone repairers and Avenue Kennedy in Yaoundé, we will offer them free education on how to really repair phones in a safe way and also create real businesses on phone repairs. We just got authorization from Ministry of Vocational Services in Cameroon to do that. They will be trained for free. Some of those people, all they need is a 3-month solid education on how to repair things without doing guesswork. We will offer that for free. They can make money. They don't have to make 1 million francs every month. You just need somebody to be able to make 80,000, 100,000 every month to feed their family. That is what we are focused on, Mr. Babila. So these are the type that, okay, then the final one, which is so exciting, is training young people how to offer online technology support services for companies anywhere in the world. A lot of our students are making a lot of money doing that, and it is working. That way they can still work for Cameroon. I'm not saying that these kids should not work for Cameroon, but they have opportunities to stay here and do a lot of IT service delivery in many parts of the world, because today you don't even need to be in your office to do those things.
Right. So, to come down now to the issue of facilities that are not in good state, or that are completely absent in many parts of the country. Somebody listening to us now would want to know how ICT can be used to improve on the state of roads in the country, to generate the resources that will be invested in provision of social amenities like roads, health centers, hospitals, and all what they need for a smooth life, so to speak.
So it will shock you what I will respond, and I've written quite a lot on this particular question you're asking. The fact is, as of 2024, most African countries have the technology resources to at least make them develop, contribute to their development. It's the willpower that is just not there. Because if people are corrupt, my dear brother, no matter what technology you use, in fact, if anything, technologies can enhance the corruption in a way that has never existed before. So to put it on technology to make this change is very, very difficult. I cannot sit here in all good conscience and say technology will solve and bring development by itself. There must be checks and balances. There must be technology auditors, which is an entire different area in IT itself. So such that what we have right now, we can do things. I sit here in Cameroon and I use MTN, I use Orange connection to give lectures all over the world when I'm in Cameroon. But people will tell you, oh, in Cameroon we don't have good internet. Yes, it's true. We don't have as perfect internet or great internet as some countries in the Western world. But what we have is still good enough to do certain things that can make you productive. Everybody has a mobile phone today, smartphone. That in itself is a business tool that can be used for a lot of things. But what do we use it for? 90% of our mobile phones is to show off, first of all, that we are rich, even if we don't have the money. Number two is to talk to friends and family and have fun. There are so many girls living in prostitution that they will not call it prostitution. They go and date all these big men that have money. They will ask them for money to buy an iPhone for 600,000 francs, but they will not ask for money, 150,000 francs to buy a laptop to do an online business. So you see, the mentality itself has to change. The technology will not just change it. We already have things to start with. I'm not saying that we are there, but we have things to start, the technologies to get us started.
But that would take the right mindset.
I know a top person in this country, I'll not call the name, who when they send him emails, he tells the secretary to print it, bring it to him, he reads it, puts notes, what they should write back for them to go and type. Why can he not just use his phone and answer? And that is why important emails will come to him from multiple countries around the world for things that could benefit Cameroon. But it would take 3 months, 3 weeks to get a response because the secretary has to print it, bring it, they write. You know that people are doing this. The technology is there, but he has a big computer. We donated in Uganda, I personally, through my foundation, computers to a top class university in Uganda so that they can use it to help farmers, to help young people to learn technology. The chancellor of that university invited me to his house for dinner a year after I donated. I don't think he realizes. When I went to his house, you know what I saw? His children playing on those donated computers. He was so foolish, he could have even hidden it from me. So the corruption is too deep of individuals that all we will do is point fingers at other people. But if the mentality does not change, no matter what technology you throw, it's not going to lead to any development.
All right, we're going to take a look at some interviews now, and we'll be right back in some few minutes. Interviews of the week.
Oh, thank you very much. I think I like Mr. Paul Atanganji a lot, you know. Until he came onto the scene, you know, it was like, you know, Anglophones could just be backed at. But with Paul Atanganji, one can tell that it has to do but with the character of the individual. You know, Anglophones had always been seen as being very docile, but when Atanganji shows up, everybody respects him. But that said, I must say that he could do with some, with a little bit of emotional intelligence, because the country is going through a very difficult period, and we should be very careful how we address ourselves to each other, because you can say something and you probably mean one thing and others can take it differently, and you never know when things can explode and get out of hand, and one should never take anything for granted. So in as much as we have the democracy or the opportunity or the power to talk, we should always be very careful how we address other citizens, because nobody is another person's father in this country. Anybody can be appointed anytime to do any job. And just being appointed, because you have been appointed, doesn't mean that you have all the wisdom, and doesn't mean that you have all the truth, and doesn't mean that you have all the answers, and doesn't mean that whatever you say, everything that you say is truth. And I'm saying this because, as you noticed, the Anglophone problem is something that started on very insidiously, and we didn't realize that 8 years down the road we will still be killing each other. And those that started the war, be it in the country or be it in the diaspora, they are not there at the war front fighting. It's the children of the poor, be they soldiers or armors, that are fighting and killing others. And then when you track back, you realize that it's this kind of insidious language, incendiary language, that usually starts problems. I mean, we should not push others to the wall at any time. Even if you think somebody is wrong, tell him in a very gentle, loving manner and explain why you think he is wrong.
As a legal mind, I condemn that in toto. Nobody is interested to see that the other right of the other person is tempered upon it. But rather, unfortunately, it happens. But the problem is that the public should as well know where to complain. Sometimes ignorance, or sometimes that sanctions are being taken, but since they're not announced, people don't know that sanctions have been meted against those forces of law and order. Take, for example, let the gendarmes, if you are assaulted or your right is abused, if you go to the brigade, you complain to the commander, he's not willing, you seize a meal. But the law of the population are not aware about simil. Simi will discipline them. And when you just inform a gendarme that you're going to Simi, you adjust. Equally like the police, you can go to the police or police. They'll sanction those police officers. Most often, sometimes the Delegate General of National Security dismisses police officers. But see, it does it quietly. People don't know that they sanction them. And some of them already have that impression that police are so powerful that they don't have anywhere. But let me tell you that Babylon, the police are treated as civilians so that you can seize the ordinary court against a police officer. Gendarme, you can seize the military court. And you need to know the justice in the military court is more draconian against them than you as civilian. So the problem is part of the ignorance of the police, or part of it is that the even sanction is announced, but people don't know that they have sanctioned them. But the possibility are there. In a criminal offense, an action can only start by somebody making a complaint. One of the problems is that Cameroonians are too docile, or they are not active to even take the effort to make a complaint. Just take, for example, when you are passing along the highway, police stop people with 500 francs. It's the rule. But who has complained? When you don't complain, how does the authority even know? But sometimes, somehow, is that even those who complain, they might have done a wrong somewhere. Most of those police, most of the drivers who complain that police are extorting them, check their documents, you realize that some of them don't have the documents. And that gives the authority to the police to exploit them. It's a bargain between the corrupt and the corrupter. The church believes in forgiveness than even the law, or us lawyers want sanctions. But the church believes more in forgiving than even sanctioning. But let me equally surprise you. Do you know that Martin Luther, who had brought this radical change in the church, was a lawyer? If you see the attires of lawyers, it resembles that of the pastors. So there's a semblance between the law and the Bible. If you read Psalm 119, it tells you that all the Bible is the law. It's just because the other person has called it Bible, we in the legal field, we call it the law. The Bible is the law. It's the laws of God. And all great men in the Bible were lawyers. Do you know that Paul, who wrote nearly the New Testament, was a lawyer? Do you know that Martin Luther was a lawyer? Do you know that Moses was the founder of law? Those who have gone to law school, when they're teaching the history of law, you discover that it started from Moses. So why should lawyer be looked in a different perspective? And whatever declaration that are made in court, is not a lawyer who made those declarations. The lawyer merely says that, as per the declaration of this person, law number this article, this says that this. My vision is that I should take the church to a higher height. When I was president of CMF, I did a lot of things, created a record, which till now have not been challenged. I believe that with the Holy Spirit and the pastor who has just come in, we shall do greater things. And the church has a college, we want to make it to have partnership with foreign universities. That will be a great history there in Cameroon, in the Presbyterian churches, in the Presbyterian secondary schools in Cameroon. We want to be partnership that our children can leave, go to foreign universities, easily have scholarship, and if possible, partial scholarship with possibility of working. Imagine that we achieve just that one goal. It will radically change the perspective of children going to Presbyterian school. And once we succeed with that college, we'll just link the connection to all Presbyterian schools.
All right, you welcome back. Those were interviews of the week. And now, Professor, you were talking earlier about an institution that should be established to control all what has to do with ICTs in the country. And there is already ANTIC, the National Telecommunications Agency, the regulatory authority, and there is also the Cameroon Telecommunications. But these institutions seem not to be yielding the right fruits. So when you talk about an institution, what more are you talking about?
Yeah, you know, I respect government. I really don't know the details on how these government entities were established, so I cannot comment a lot on the what the goals of the government were, but I can comment on what I know. When you have any regulatory body or any body to a body set up to help for ease of business in a country, it has to be independent of the government. You know, the government has to allow that body to be run by a board that is completely independent of the government. A body that a minister or a big director will not call and threaten maybe the chairman of that body that you must do this or do that. A body that is completely independent, that can speak and get things done the right way in terms of the way technology is going in the country. Because like I wrote in my very first book, when I finished my PhD many years back, the government should try to avoid being in the business of telecommunications, because you cannot regulate yourself. You cannot own a business in the telecommunication area and then you are regulating yourself. It will be very hard to get such businesses to even make money. I don't know how Camtel operates, so I can't comment particularly on Camtel. That's just the fact of it. But for the most part, a lot of these entities, and the government has the power to do that, to allow some independence in terms of the board or the commission, the regulatory commission put over them, because like I've said, government cannot regulate itself. That is not possible. It has never worked in any country. If you keep a company like Camtel to just keep operating, I don't know whether they get government support and so on, but I can talk about Botswana. It had that problem where the government had a company such as Camtel and it was its own regulator and so on. Well, if they are doing the wrong thing, and again, I don't know the case of Camtel, I talk about Botswana because I studied that case. If they are doing the wrong thing, the government cannot really bring serious punishment on them. Just like they can, but they can do that for MTN and Orange or independent or private companies. Business has to run on its own in one way or another.
There should be an independent looking through what is done.
Otherwise, if a business knows that whether I work or not, the government will give my subsidies, I have no real incentive of doing any hard work. In fact, if I myself I'm in such a company, just by mentality, knowing that whether or not I produce money, the government will give me money, I'm not going to be as hardworking. But when I know that the food on my table tomorrow depends on this succeeding, trust me, I will go over and beyond and make sure I do it right.
Right, Professor, to end this program, if there were three things that must be done or should be done by Cameroon and other African nations to enhance the implementation of ICT in order to contribute adequately to the development of the countries, the continent as a whole, what would be those three things that should be done like immediately?
Goodness, the first thing more than ever before, and I know we are in a lay station. My goodness, we need God's intervention in Africa. Some things are not going right. That's the first thing. Second, the young people, youths. And when I talk of youths, I talk even about people up to their 40s. Must be given a chance to govern. Must be given a chance to bring in their ideas, because there are people that no matter what is done, they're not wicked, they're not bad people, but people that grew up purely under the colonizers. It's very difficult for them to think differently and stand up against those colonizers. Not because they are bad people, don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those that will bash anybody. My father just died at the age of 90. I respect older people. They should be there to advise the younger ones. A thing like technology, you cannot take somebody that is in their 60s, 70s, 80s and tell them to run real technology-based companies or initiatives. It's not gonna work.
With analog mentality.
Not because they are bad people, but the mindset is not there to learn new things. But a young man or a young woman is because they want to prove something. They want to grow in their careers. They will work much harder. And the older people can be there to give some wisdom, some advice, and so on. Please, we need to give a chance to young people. Come to ICT University, the average age of people doing great things there is 25 to 28. We are encouraging dynamic young people to produce and do things. Somebody that's already a certain age, they have their houses, they have their comfort, they may not necessarily have the mentality to want to, the zeal to want to do special things. So the young people must be considered. Then finally you ask for 3 education reforms. We have to change the way we run education from nursery school to universities in Africa. I'm not just talking about Cameroon. The system, the curriculum that we have all over Africa is too archaic. Give a chance. People should not be afraid that curriculum will change because they will lose their jobs. There are departments at universities today that should not exist, should be closed down completely. There are schools that they do not need to exist, that should be closed down completely because things have changed. The world has moved.
Professor Victor MBARIKA, Cameroon-born American professor, former Starlings International Distinguished Scholar, and Professor of Information and Communication Technologies, recipient of the United States President's Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you so much for your time. You're also the President of the Board of Trustees of the ICT University. Thank you for coming. Thank you for all the insights you've shared with us in this edition of the program.
Thank you so much. I invite you and the rest of the country. We have ICT for Africa conference coming up 15th to 18th of this month. We have a number of presidents that will present at the conference. They should come to Monfebe in Yaoundé for that conference. Thank you. I'm really honored to be on Equinoxe. I know our institution, we've done a lot of things with this station from what I learned from my staff, and we are happy with this collaboration.
Thanks, Professor. Thank you for coming. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today's edition of the program. You can follow the program on our social media handles on Facebook and YouTube, and you can also follow the rebroadcast of the program on Friday at 5 p.m. Thank you for staying with us. Goodbye.